Welcome to Real Talk with New Order live on DiSCO100 Radio. Please subscribe to YouTube channel. It's free. We're going to have a special guest into the studio. Right now, I have my co-host, Mr. Noki Harden, who's the co-host of New Order, also the economic advisor for the organization. What's going on, bro?
Man, how you doing, man?
How was your week, man?
Man, but blessed. Blessed week.
Okay. We also have not a stranger, but he's official. He's been official. He's been doing security for me for a minute, but now he's fully on board. The National Security Advisor, former DeKalb County detective or police officer. I want to make sure I'm saying that right.
I'm a former sergeant with the DeKalb Police and a former lieutenant with the DeKalb Sheriff's Office.
Okay, Mr. Kyle Jones. I invited him in the studio. Then of course we have Miss Mayfield, who's behind the scenes, will be answering the phones. Please be a part of the conversation. Call in at 638-638-6626. At the bottom of the hour, we will have newly elected DA Mr. Flynn Brody will be in the studio to talk about different things. There's some issues that's going on in this community that need to be addressed. This is my first time meeting him, but since he's in office now, we're going to hold everybody accountable on the decisions they make when it comes to community affairs here in Cobb County. So, Noki, it's been about a week, man. What's been going on? You see change has came in this county, man, but like you said earlier, for us to make change within us, we got to start spending our own money in our own community. You still agree with that?
Yeah, because that's the only thing people's gonna really accept.
Okay.
I mean, in every situation, it's gonna be affected weighted by how people spend their money, because which is the bottom line, is about the profit. It's about the dollar.
Right.
And we as consumers, our dollar is our strength.
Right.
So we gotta always keep that in mind, that it's how we spend our money that's really gonna entail how we're gonna be represented.
That's true.
Because sometimes, if you neglect certain businesses, then
we got a call. We got a call coming in. Okay, now let's go to Kyle Jones. Again, he's not a stranger. He's been around us. Of course, me and myself and Leonard Jones, a spokesperson, for many years or whatever, working closely in DeKalb County. So, Kyle, first of all, welcome to the studio, man, and I'm glad that I consider you New Order for life. Every time you say, "Gee, I'm here. I'm with you."
I'm with you.
But I know you haven't been in the studio for a while, man. But what you think about? Of course, you're in a different county. I don't know how much you're familiar with Cobb County, but I can say that a lot of us has been elected. So it's just the fact we still got to hold people accountable. You always tell me that we need to take this move. We can meet with the chief of police, but why is it very important when we have these meetings? We need to go to these powerful elected officials.
Because the elected officials are the final decision makers.
Okay.
And today, just having a district attorney, who's actually the chief law enforcement officer of Cobb County, because he determines what cases go forward and what cases don't.
He's very important.
Very, very, very important, and is a very good guest to have on your show, especially during this time that we're living in Cobb County.
Okay.
Cobb County has always had a blemish, on this record from as long as I can remember, since 1995.
So even though you don't live here, you always been hearing about Cobb?
I've been in law enforcement since 1995, and I stay out of Cobb County.
Wow. You right about that. When I first moved here, Kyle, I remember when I met with the late Joseph Lowry and Reverend Orange and all, they said, "Rose, don't be messing with people in Cobb County." I said, well, that's where I want to be at. So that's why I'm glad that I had a chance to come and bring the movement in Cobb County first, and things like that's very important because, each county have their issues, and I know we was fighting as an organization, fighting a battle with the DeKalb County, Is he still in office?
No, he's not in office, but the issue that we had with the young lady that had behavioral health issues that the police officer attacked with the aspartame.
Right. Well, what's going on, Brody? You early.
Well, I like to be a little early, so
Okay, all right. Our guest has arrived early. He was expected to come at 5:30, but you know what? We as black folks known to be late. But see, you starting off good with me already. You early. This is the new DA of Cobb County, here in Cobb County. The first African American has won that seat, man. I'm very proud of you. I know we just not meeting, but I could tell you that I led the first march ever in Cobb County back in the early 2000s when people say don't drive to Cobb County, but my vision came true. People are actually scared to come to this county because of prior engagements, what's going on here. So I know you have a big work ahead of you, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself, what made you run for the particular office and things like that. And then we might have some questions for you.
Okay. A lot of it has to do with what you were saying.
Okay.
When I first came to Cobb County, and the first times I told somebody I lived here, the first thing they said, you know what Cobb means?
Count on being busted.
Count on being busted. And, when I got my first job in the Assistant Solicitor General's office under Barry Morgan.
Okay.
The first time I walked into the courtroom, I was shocked because all I saw was black and brown. I didn't see anything else. And I'm like, this can't be right.
Mhm.
We can't be the only ones getting in trouble. We can't be the only ones getting traffic tickets.
Right.
So what's going on? And what I found out was we don't take the opportunity to secure legal representation.
Right.
And legal representation is so important all the way through the criminal justice system.
Mhm.
And if you don't have a prosecutor whose eyes on justice, then you're going to have a problem because he automatically has an advantage over you because of his legal training. He knows the law. He knows what you did and what you didn't do.
Right. Right.
So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to run for district attorney, because I wanted to be in a position to make a difference.
Okay.
And my campaign has always been focused on restorative justice.
Mhm.
And many people say, what does that mean? And restorative justice means for nonviolent offenders, for those who we can rehabilitate.
Mhm.
We bring them back to the community as productive citizens instead of giving them long-term jail sentences or saddling them with jail or with criminal history that can cause them not to be able to get a job, not to be able to get home, and those type of things. So that was the main reason why I wanted to run for district attorney.
Okay.
And yesterday I actually did my first restorative justice initiative as I brought 2 veterans in who had pleaded guilty to their charges back in 2016. And because the law allows us to have them withdraw their guilty plea, because they completed Veterans Court and Accountability Court and dismissed their charges, so it's like it never happened.
Mhm.
And so that's some of the things that I want to do going forward. I want to give everybody an opportunity to be successful.
Right. One thing what New Order is doing, we're on a tour called Bridging the Gap 2021. And we're meeting with, of course, yourself, and we're meeting with the chief of police throughout Metro Atlanta area. But we starting off with Cobb. So I met with Deputy Chief Mr. Farrell. I do have a meeting with Mr. Tim Cox on February 2nd. Matter of fact, I met with Ms. Holmes when we had a case with the Renato Lewis case. I don't know if you was familiar with that. The young man at the IHOP.
Right.
Thank God the charges was dropped because he was a business owner here, and things like that. So, somebody got to take a stand. And then you have a powerful position. I know you're going to be getting pulled everywhere and things like that. So I was like, wow, we got the first black DA, the first black chairwoman, the first black sheriff. And to my understanding, I don't know how many blacks are in Cobb, but obviously we made a difference. The state there turned blue now, and things like that. So I see change. I see change. But what really made me upset is that when I seen what happened at the Capitol, and I'm quite sure you agree with me, because if that was us doing that, it'd be dead bodies everywhere and things like that. Because I always say it's 2 different Americas right now, one for them and one for, I'm not racist, just the fact we know that we couldn't do that. How they took over the Capitol in D.C. So if anybody have any questions or whatever, again, this is Noki Hardy. He's my
Hey, how you doing, sir?
economic advisor,
How
and
you
he's
doing?
my co-host, and this is Mr. Kyle Jones,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
former law enforcement, to bring, some experience into the organization, and obviously far security wise, because we do a lot of stuff. I know I'm just not meeting you, locally and nationwide. We had a chance to speak on the Sandra Bland case when Mike Vick got in trouble.
Mhm.
So when you when you really doing something, people don't like change,
Exactly.
and things like that. So I'm quite sure, you coming in Cobb, because Cobb got issues. I've been dealing with Cobb for a while. I never thought I'd be sitting to the next, the DA of of a county here in Cobb County. So I really applaud you, for running for that seat. But I know get ready, to do the work or whatever. So things like, do anybody have any questions for Mr. You got a question from Kyle for Mr.
Now, from listening to
Brody?
you, I followed your campaign and everything, and a lot of times with people with the platform that you ran on, a bold platform to bring about change, restorative justice, talking about helping convicted felons get reacclimated back to society. I ran for sheriff in DeKalb, and I ran on that same, platform. But to see you actually get in there, is amazing. I think it's a new day in Cobb,
Sure is.
County. You got your work cut out for you, but I think you built for the, I think you built for the task.
I have the passion for the task.
Yeah.
I've worked in our accountability courts and saw how you can take someone whose life is just totally destroyed and rebuild that person to the point where now we put them back in the community. They got their own job. They got their own place to stay. They're doing well, and they stay that way because you've helped do that. And one of the things we forgot about is we need to restore people in our community versus trying to throw everybody away. And so that's what I wanted to focus on as far as my job as the district attorney.
And that's lost. That's been lost. I don't think it's been lost. I really don't think that's ever been a part of the, criminal justice system. And, I've been in law enforcement for over somewhere around 25 years. I was a sergeant in internal affairs with DeKalb Police, the commander of the fraud and financial crimes unit. I was the commander of internal affairs for MARTA, and I was an aide to the former sheriff. So I have a lot of background in DeKalb County. I have a lot of background, in law enforcement, and to see somebody else involved in law enforcement, a lot of officers, African-American officers, their thoughts and their emotions and everything are bottled up because they're stuck in this go along and get along, and they see a lot of stuff that's wrong, that's going on in the criminal justice system, and they don't say anything about it. And to see now, we're coming into positions, where we can use our voice, and not only just use our voices, but the people that are in those spots, the key spots like you're in, can actually bring about some change.
That's the beauty of what happened in Cobb this election cycle. The commissioners board is 3 African-American females, all Democrat. Cobb County Sheriff Owens, Democrat, who also was in the police department for 30-some-odd years and brought a suit against his own police department when he found out there was racial disparities when it came to promotions.
Yeah.
And so you got people on board now who are saying that, hey, we're focused on getting a new day in Cobb County. And I think the majority of the people in Cobb County are willing to do that because they're tired of the intolerance. They're tired of the hate. They want us to get along. They want us to be together because when we're together, we can accomplish so much more. And that's what we're trying to do here.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's amazing. Go ahead. No.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and congratulations too on your
Thank you.
post. But I was gonna say, based on what I heard from you, and which is a reality for most of us, you have it's so easy to convict poor Black people, and when they grab hold of these young brothers and sisters, a lot of times they going up against a Goliath. You know what I'm saying? And there's no way for them to win. And a lot of them don't even have the economics to mount a defense. And the game is so lopsided. And this is what's really happening in this impoverished America. And I don't know if you have any plans or if you know how to deal with it or stop it. I just see that there's gonna be a whole lot of victimization when it comes to our peoples that's at the very bottom of the totem pole.
No, I'll give you a good example. As a prosecutor, I had this case where this young man came in, and I'm reading the file, and he got arrested for loitering and prowling. And he starts telling me the story. He says, I worked at Jim and Nick's barbecue place. They don't allow us to smoke on the property. So we had to go across the street to smoke a cigarette. Well, the place across the street just happened to have cameras. So before they knew it, 7 police cars were surrounding them, put them in handcuffs, took them to jail, arrested them for loitering and prowling. It was 2 of them. When I come in, I say, okay, so did you have any burglary tools? No. Did you have any marijuana? No. He had nothing. So they weren't there for bad stuff. They were just there because they were smoking a cigarette. So I said, you got arrested for being Black. I dismissed this case. And then I said, okay, where's your buddy? Because I wasn't talking to his buddy at the time. His buddy was talking to another prosecutor who was signing him up to go to trial. I said, no. Dismiss his case because they didn't do anything. He's already lost his job. He's already spent some time in jail. So we've already disrupted his life and caused economic consequences that shouldn't have been there. And it takes strong prosecutors to understand that I've got the discretion to make these decisions. So use it. You know, both of these young men had clean records, nothing.
Right.
And so you knew they weren't up to no good. You knew they were doing the right thing. I mean, I'm sure they had their little Jim and Nick's aprons on or whatever. Why would they arrest them? And it shouldn't have happened.
Right. So basically you admit it was racial profiling, basically.
I believe so.
Okay.
I don't know the officers involved, so I don't know if they were white, black, Hispanic. I don't know.
Right.
But to me, if that would have been two white boys over there, I don't think they would have got arrested. They would have been told to leave.
Right.
And that's what should have happened with the two
Right,
white boys.
right. I really appreciate that. Again, you listen live on
Yeah.
Real Talk with New Order, live on DiSCO100 Radio. Please call in if you want to be a part of the conversation. It's 678-638-6626. We have the newly elected Cobb County DA, Mr. Flynn Brody, in the studio. We also have a former law enforcement over 20-something years, Mr. Kyle Jones, who's of course, the security advisor for New Order. We also have Mr. Noki Harden, our economic advisor. We're just talking about the issues that's going on, in Cobb County. Of course, we could add DeKalb because I know you live in DeKalb, but you made a statement before he got in here and kind of share that where you said that you even was scared to come to Cobb County back in the day. And you was a law
I ain't
enforcement.
gonna say I was scared. I ain't gonna say I was scared, but I said before you came in, I moved here in 1995 and I took a job with the DeKalb Police and I stayed out of Cobb County. It was a controversial. It was always been a controversial county, and I'm a type of controversial person. If you bring it to me, we going to the next level. So I know my boundaries and I know my limitations. So I stayed out of here at night and stuff.
Right.
You know some of the stories and everything that took place in Cobb, but the thing that always baffled me was that when you looked at the large African American population that they have always had, since I moved here in Cobb, because everybody, I moved here from up north,
Right.
but the majority of people that moved here from up north, every time I asked them where they was moving to, they was moving to Marietta. I'm like, well, we got the cab down here.
That's
But
why
yeah.
I came, Marietta.
Yeah, everybody moved to Marietta, but
Right.
like I said, I come up here, I enjoy the Battery
Right.
and stuff from time to time. I go to the mall, but that's about as much as I ever did in Cobb. Came to
Right.
Cobb Parkway, but I plan to be doing a whole lot more in Cobb now.
Right,
Spend a
right,
lot more time
right.
out here.
But just to add to what you said, though, I think people still don't realize that as a black man, when a cop gets behind you, you still get nervous. You
Yeah.
still worried.
Right.
Even when you're in a position of authority and in a good position, because we even had one time here in Cobb County where Chairwoman Cupid somebody
pulled
was-
over.
Yeah, she got pulled. They
I remember
followed
that.
her and pulled her
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. It happens.
Let me ask you a question. Part of the president's executive order is to come up with a strategic plan to kind of evaluate the area and kind of challenge you to figure out what you're going to do to kind of figure out what your priorities are
The mics issue.
to come up with a strategy to identify areas that need
Systemic racism.
the
Systemic
racism and other issues.
Racism. Right.
And other issues. So what do you identify and how you're going to collaborate and what groups have you figured out how you're going to tackle this challenge?
Well, as soon as I got elected, the first thing I started doing was going around talking to police chiefs. And I started talking to them about going through systemic racism training, implicit bias. I talked to them about doing more use of force training, more de-escalation training, those type of training. So when their officers get in that position, they revert to their training instead of their emotion. And I think that's critical, and you know that. And so those are some of the ways I started. And then I'm also doing that with my office, doing implicit bias training so people will understand that when they look at two different cases that have the exact same facts, they got to take out of their mind that one might be black and one might be white. And so that way they don't sentence one lighter than the other. And you know, the thing that, and I'll say this, we're not asking for anything extra. We're just asking to be equal to what you're doing for everybody else. And that's important.
Right. That's you brought up a good point, because when I met with Deputy Farrell, he was, as the deputy chief of Marietta, I can really say he was sincere, but I still have to, as an activist, do my job.
Right.
We could be friends all day, but if something injustice is going on, we will be knocking at the door,
Right.
And things like that. So I really applaud you coming in and explaining, what you plan to do, because again, like Kyle said, Cobb is, to me, it seems like it's a different beast, because they might think you being biased, just, helping us out, you might hear from the other end. So, it's just the fact, get ready, I got, we will support you. But like I said, as an activist, as an organization, we don't go off emotions, we go off facts, and things like that. So, so when I met with Ms. Holmes, the situation was going on with Renato Lewis. I questioned on how he was handled that day, but I can tell you that I wrote several letters to the DA to get this man a second chance, because he was a business owner, and things like that. So God did come in and step in, and charges was dropped. But, it's just the fact, I was surprised, because Cobb County, as far as conviction rate, among us it's like 90%. It's very, very deep. So, and Disco, he knows, he been living here for a while, Cobb County, so.
I live by Walton High School,
Okay.
and I tell my boys, I got boys that play ball over there, and it's terrifying.
Right.
Like when they go to their homeboy house and it's like 1:30 in the morning, I tell them to stay where they
We
at.
got a
Don't worry
call.
about coming home.
Yeah, we got a call.
Real Talk New Order, what's your name and where you calling from?
Yeah, peace, justice from Douglasville, Georgia.
Mr. Peace Justice, Mr. Futch.
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on, Futch?
You know what it is, man. See y'all.
What's going on with you, man? What you got? What your comment? What you got going? First of all, I applaud you. What you're doing in the community, doing great work, man. What you got for us?
You know I got mad love for you, bro, no doubt, and your whole team. And you already know I got love for the new DA for Cobb County. But look, what I wanted to, and I thank Mr. Brody for definitely sharing the example when it came to the two guys that were, being charged with laundering, and how one was already getting ready for trial. You see, so I thought that was very interesting. But I think, and I don't know if I'm late on this, but did Mr. Brody share with you his things moving forward when it comes to veterans? And if he hasn't, I would like him to share that again.
I don't think so.
No, I actually did.
Oh, you did?
That was
Okay.
the first thing I talked about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he spoke on
Okay,
that.
so he did share that. Okay, well then definitely I just want to thank him once again. Okay, well definitely thank him. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you once again, and also I want to thank him for coming out and helping me feed the homeless, because I don't know if you guys know it, but 2 weeks ago Mr. Brody came out and fed the homeless with me, and it was about 40 degrees outside.
Wow.
And he stayed out there for a whole hour, him and his wife, and we fed downtown. So I thought that was very interesting. Thanks for the call.
Yeah,
Hey, no-
he actually told me that he was glad I came because he didn't have to do any work.
Hey, I really applaud you, because you actually went out your territory. You went out to because I know Cobb is the one that elected you, that you went out in Atlanta and fed the homeless. So I've been watching you from afar, so, I really applaud you on that, because, when you ask for a vote, it's just when you get elected, some politicians seem they disappear when we really need you. And I know you have to do your job, because every time I meet with these police officers, all police officers are not bad. It's just we have some bad ones on the force that need to be dealt with,
Right.
and making bad decisions and stuff like that,
And that's
So-
where that training comes in.
Right.
Yeah, a lot
ahead,
of that's contribute to the training and supervision. From my experience, being in law enforcement, like you said, there is a lot of good. It's a lot of good police officers.
Oh, of course,
and
yeah.
stuff, but a lot of them are silenced, by the nature, of the job. And we used to have investigations where officers would get into several officers would be involved in one situation, and when we bring them in and start questioning them, you know, and I'm sitting there talking, you know, to the African Americans police officers, and I know they're not being truthful, and you know, I'm telling them, you know, for 90% for the first time offense in violations of policies, it's like in law enforcement, it's like written counseling, you know, verbal counseling and stuff like that. But when you get into lying, you know, truthfulness is termination. And, you know, what we used to have was situations where they'll come in and they're lying, trying to cover up for another officer. You know, then that officer come in there and he'll tell the truth, you know, and he'll take it, you know, he'll take his punishment, but then they'll look at being, you know, being terminated.
Oh, okay.
You know,
okay.
and a lot of that was because they want to try to stick up and thinking that this blue line,
Right.
yeah, it's you're here to serve the people.
That's
You know,
true.
when that president
Serve and
said
protect.
you know, they work for the people, you know, a lot of officers used to get offended when the public would tell them that, but I never got offended,
Okay.
you know, because in reality, that's who you're working for. You're here for the people to serve
Right.
and protect and take care,
Right.
you know, the people.
Right. Go ahead, Disco.
I got a question for both of y'all. I know I'm old, I'm a grown man, but I think I pulled over, I'll say 6 times in the last year. I go to work 3:45 in the morning. And I get pulled over every time going down Roswell Road, going to work. And what would be your suggestion for me? Because it's gonna happen again. So they'll follow me to the quick trip while I get coffee and catch me coming out. And they ask me where I'm going, what I'm doing. I got a uniform on. I work for Cobb County Transit. So what would you know, I know the time and day we're going right now. And I got a Cuban flag in my mirror, so I don't know what the scenario is, but it's always your tag light was dim or you switch lanes too late. It's always something. And they run my background and let me go. But I have like 6 times last year.
Yeah, unfortunately, situations like that, officers are trying to make sure they're keeping the roads safe by keeping drunk drivers off the road. And so if you make the slightest mistake, they may pull you over. And then if they pull you over, they're going to check your background just because they pulled you over, just to make it seem like make it seem like they're not just pulling you over for no reason. And what people don't realize, it's so easy to violate the rules of the road that it's easy for an officer to find something to pull you over. And so I think that's more or less it is. And you may have something.
Got something on that, Kyle?
Yeah, but if you feel like you're being targeted or you're being harassed, you know, you always got the recourse to call out and file a complaint. If it's something that you're saying is happening on a consistent basis, at the same time of morning, those same officers are working, you know, in that same area and on that same shift. So, I mean, if you feel like you're being targeted, pick up the telephone and call down there and talk to the precinct commander or supervisor, you know, let them know what's going on. Because they go over stuff like that in roll call.
I mean, it cost me twice being late to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this here, to be honest, is that as long as the people who are in the position to reward and punish, and they only can reward and punish who they choose to, because they have the power and authority. See, the police don't fear no retribution because they're not held accountable or to a high standard. So they don't have to be professional with you. They can treat you any kind of way. And who gonna say something? We don't have nobody to be an advocate for us against the police. Who police the police?
That's
Nobody.
That's what internal affairs do. That's what I spent my career doing. And, you know, and I put plenty of police officers in jail, you know, for violating citizens' rights. And I fired plenty of police officers for going out here beating and abusing their authority. And that's where you sitting across that the gentleman right there, you know, he's holding police officers, you know, accountable. So they have to be professional. We just have to know, like you said, it deals with economics and education on how to respond back and fight them. You know, it ain't all about physical fighting no more. You know, it's all about intellectual battle.
Right. The point I'm making is, like the brother said, see, the police can violate your rights because even though they supposed to uphold the Constitution and give us our due rights, they feel like they don't have to respect your rights. This the reason why you always gonna be confronted with at the barrel of a gun, because they have the authority, and in most cases you might even lose your life. And we already see it. And you know, I'm not picking on on you. You know what I'm saying? I applaud you. And everything you saying sound like you coming from the right side of the fence. You know, you about justice. But when the police got a playbook and they can say, oh, I was afraid. Or he didn't resist, wouldn't stop resisting. If you beat me across my head with your billy club, I'm going to throw my hands up to try to defend my life so I don't have to get the blows. But you use that as your prerequisition to continuously abuse me and assault me. And there's no way for me to sit up there, even if I'm Rodney King, and you got a video saying, look, this is what's going on. You still got a segment of this society that sit up there and say the police is innocent and Rodney King guilty.
Let me comment on that. And one of the things that we have to realize, and I think we're finally starting to realize as a people, how important registering to vote is. The way they get jury people is from voter registrations.
Mm.
The way they get the grand jury who decides whether a case goes to trial for charges or not is through voter registration. And when we don't register to vote, and the grand jury is nothing but Caucasians, we have an issue. And that's why, when we look back to the 1870s going forward, every time a black man tried to bring charges against a white man, what would happen? He would be found not guilty, not charged, or some other reason. And that's because we never raised our voice to be heard. And I think this election here, for the first time in a long time, we raised our voices so loud that they have to listen. That's why we have 3 black commissioners on the board. That's why we have an African-American sheriff. That's why we have an African-American district attorney, because we finally decided, and we have an African-American clerk of courts. We decided that we're not going to be silent anymore. We're going to be heard. We just did a grand jury, impaneled a grand jury last Thursday and Friday. When I looked at the makeup of the grand jury, there's 27 people on that grand jury. 10 of them were African-American. 2 of them were Hispanic. There was 1 Asian. So that's 13 out of 27. That's almost 50%. That's what it should have been in the past, but because we did not register to vote, we didn't represent ourselves and have our voices heard. Now you've got people in place that our voices are going to be heard, and it's not going to be easy for them to whitewash anything. And you're going to see now that the system is going to work more for African Americans, for minorities, period. And that's one of my biggest goals, is that throughout every process, every step of the legal process, there's representation, and they get a fair and just hearing, get a fair and just trial if it goes to trial. If they decide to plead, they get a fair and just sentence. And the only way I can do that is because people have decided that we're going to let this man be our voice. And that's why it's so important that we register to vote, so we can be on those grand juries. We can be sitting in those jury boxes. We can be the ones in positions of power to make sure we represent our people proper. Not so we can turn it around on them, but so we can be equal and make sure everything else is equal.
So it can be fair.
Yes, so it can be fair.
I agree.
Now, let me ask you something, Kyle. Remember that case we had in DeKalb County where the officer came into the carryout store and beat that homeless?
Yes.
Now, DeKalb back then was mostly majority all black, right? Because remember, I had fronted the CEO.
The CEO.
Right. Whatever happened to, it's like it just faded away. Now, you wasn't work for them then, were you?
No, I was with you
That's
protesting.
Yeah,
I
but I was
retired.
wondering,
I
like
was
we
with
said,
you
what I'm
protesting.
saying, it was a lot of elected black officials, and it's like they still let that
They still
ride.
do.
So
And-
when I see that, it gets me upset. They want your votes when you have the power to make change. Like Noki said, we're not doing it. So whatever happened like that?
So right now, I don't know.
I mean,
know where.
even John Lewis spoke up on it. Remember?
Yeah. A lot of people spoke up on it. I mean,
I don't know if you
probably
remember that
yeah,
case.
You probably
What year
remember the
was that?
case. It was a lady had she had behavior health issues.
Mental
and
health.
She was in a store, and she had been panhandling and stuff. And the cop came.
Oh my God.
And he told her to leave. And and somehow a scuffle ensued, and it just said same thing, as he was hitting her with the aspartame.
just
She was
hitting
trying
her,
to
man.
block, and he was beating her and beating her. He was beating her more. They tried their hardest to sweep the case up under the rug. I don't know if the
Did
officer
the
is
cop
still
ever
there.
get in trouble or what?
I don't know. I know I sent you a couple of emails. We should have. We supposed to be following up on that case.
Right,
But yeah, I was
right.
there with you. I wasn't.
That's
employed
true.
with them
Yeah,
at the
that's
time.
true. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to throw that at you because majority of the cab, a lot of people was in office, and I had fronted what's the CEO name?
Michael Thurman.
Michael Thurman, and so and even the great John Lewis said something about it, but for some reason nothing, no kind of action was taken. It was all on video. I mean, it was bad.
Right.
Like here in Cobb County, any officer involved stuff,
Like
mostly
that.
officer involved shootings, we are always going to send that to the grand jury. So they can't say I'm trying to make a political decision. I'm trying to bolster my campaign for my next job or anything. I'm not doing any of that. I'm going to send it to the grand jury so the people of the county can make those decisions. And I think that's important because what you don't want to see is a rush to judgment, whether it's for the officer, for the victim, or anybody else concerned.
Right.
It's got to be, like you said, about the facts and not about the emotion.
Right. You know, they control the narrative, in a lot of instances, man. I'm just being 100 with you. They become professional liars. And, they'll sit up there and they'll say all kinds of things. And you know what? I'm not trying to just say, like you said, all police are not bad. But anytime the police support another police and he lie for the police, then they both are complicit. And both of them need to be charged. It'll be the same thing if me and you committed a crime. I'm gonna be held accountable for whatever you do because I'm your sidekick.
Right.
So that's actually taking place, now in the Floyd case, the officers that just stood there,
Right.
they made this disciplinary and prosecute. So when they talk about systemic racism, a lot of issues that you're speaking about, they are systemic racism, and that's where, the times and the roles of individuals that had authority, over those situations that could have resulted different, now they're in place so that those processes and those investigations, you're gonna see different results and stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of that you're talking about is systemic racism.
Right. It's systemic racism. I agree with that. Also, it's a disease in America because it's all across this country. And I mean,
Racism.
right now, this is our beacon. This brother here, and I applaud him. I mean, I really, my heart goes out to you because everything you saying, I feel it. And I feel it coming from a sincere place. But America got a sickness, and it's called racism. And that sickness need to be cured. And the only way it's going to be cured, we got to have an honest conversation.
Yes.
I'm talking about the whole society and say, man, it got to stop. It got to stop. We can't allow the police to get away with the without being contrition. They don't show no contrition. They harm the community, not all of them, but the ones that do. Because real crime is organized. It's organized and it's hidden in the dark. And when you able to expose that crime, this is the reason why justice is blind. It can't see it.
And the truth is, he's not just the only person feeling that. And probably what it is, and probably what it is a lot of people feeling that. So you being in this position, and I guess this is part two of my original question, as the community, what do you need from us? I mean, how much time would you need from us? What do we give you? Because we're going to hold you accountable. You're there now.
Yes.
So how much time do you need for us to allow you to show us something? 6 months?
Let me tell you about the things I'm already working on. I did the Veterans Court restoration this past Friday. So what is that, 22 days in, okay? We're working on bond reform. We've already talked to our magistrate court judge. We've already talked to our commissioners about our needs for that. Our plan is for all nonviolent offenses. all nonviolent offenses except for drug trafficking or human trafficking. We are going to allow those people to be released on what they call a UJR bond now. And a UJR bond is unsecured judicial relief. And that's the new name Georgia has for it instead of OR bond.
Right.
That means the person is released, given a court date to return back for their court date. They will be told, now, if they don't return back for that court date, they're going to have a bench warrant put back on for their arrest. So they need to make sure that they make their court date. That's what we're going to do going forward. That way, we reduce some of those economic consequences that you see, losing the job, losing the homes, losing the families. That's why that is so important. Now, on the reverse side of that, if you are a danger to the community, you're a violent criminal, I'm going to try to keep you in jail. Because my goal as a district attorney is to make sure I have the safest community possible.
Right.
And some people, when we talk about restorative justice, they think we're letting all the criminals out. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're letting the nonviolent people who are not a threat to the community so we can reduce those economic consequences. That's what we're trying to do. With our diversion programs, all our simple possession charges, every single simple possession charge, no matter what it is, we are going to put you in a diversion program. And the diversion program is going to allow you to go do some counseling, do an evaluation. If you need counseling, do the counseling. Take some drug screens. If you can pass those drug screens and complete the counseling, we're going to dismiss the charge. That's about 25% of our caseload. Now, can you imagine how many resources we're going to free up by doing that so we can focus on the stuff that we need to focus on, the stuff that keeps the community not safe? So that's one of the things we're focusing on. And if you can't complete diversion because you have a problem so bad that you can't do it, then we're going to put you into an accountability court, which is a 3-year program that takes you through everything you need to do to cure yourself of an addiction issue. And anybody who wants to be better can complete that program, but they got to want it. They got to want to be a better person. When I did my swearing in ceremony, the one thing I said is I want every offender in Cobb County just to look at it just like this. Be better today than you were yesterday. And if they take that attitude, they're going to do good things.
So what do you see the difference between Cobb and DeKalb, what you're listening to? I don't know if you could kind of keep up with the DeKalb.
Well, it's really not
about the same.
Yeah, so it's really not a difference. What he's really addressing is the problems that we have here in society, and he's implementing that here. In DeKalb. In DeKalb, they have veterans court, they have mental health court.
Okay.
I was pushing for them to start bond reform. That was one of my platforms because it causes so many problems. You got people that can't pay a $300 bond to get out of jail, and they lose, they lose everything. Keisha Lance Bottom did a phenomenal job with bond reform in the city of Atlanta. It's been one of the most abused things that's on the African American community for years. He's implementing and going about doing a lot of good things that need to be done here a long time ago.
Let me comment on that too. I don't know whether you guys realize it, but now in the Atlanta Metro County, Clayton County, Douglas County, Fulton County, DeKalb County, Gwinnett County, Cobb County, all have black African-American district attorneys. And all of us are focused on restorative justice. So you're going to see a big change in the metro area. I mean, we literally talk to each other all the time to see, okay, what do you got? What are you working on here? What are you doing here? Let's collaborate and do these things together. We are doing that now. And so you're going to see quite a big changes. Fonnie Willis is going to change Fulton County totally upside down. And I look so forward to the day when people stop, thinking Cobb is the place where you can count on being busted, to a place where you can come and enjoy, have a good time, and know nobody's going to bother you as long as you don't break the law.
Right.
And be treated like an American citizen.
And be treated like, be treated with some dignity and respect.
Right.
Yes, true.
Right.
Yeah.
I
And I
respect
agree,
that.
man. I agree. And I know some of the things I say may sound facetious, but I'm not trying to be funny. I'm serious.
You know, I know you're serious, and trust me, growing up in Birmingham, Alabama, at the time I grew up, most of the police force was white. And I remember one day we were literally, me and my two best friends, I went to Phillips High School. We used to walk downtown every single day. So we're walking downtown, we're walking past this police car, and we hear over the radio, 3 guys just broke in and robbed a jewelry store. So this officer sees 3 men walking, throws us up against the wall, puts 2 of, I was the only one in handcuffs because he only had 2 pair, puts them in handcuffs. Then over the radio, they give the description, 3 white men. So he unlocks the cuffs, doesn't say sorry, doesn't say anything, gets in his car and takes off. So I understand what people have gone through. And believe me, when I look at my brothers and sisters, I want to make sure we get our share of everything we're entitled to. And for the longest, you know, starting from 1863, when they first let the slaves go, laws have been put in place to hold us down.
They keep them enslaved.
To keep us as slaves. I mean, the first laws were laundering and prowling, laundering and vagrancy laws, so they could arrest black men, put them in prison, put them back on the farm as free labor. And it's continued for the longest. That's why, you know, when we look at the prison system in America, we have 25% of the world's prisoners, but only 5% of the world's population. That does not make any sense at all. And it's because we have had a system where states have been rewarded for private prisons, putting African American and our brown brothers in jail to keep that system going. And it's time for a change. It's time for us to speak up and be heard and make sure we get our rights just like everybody else.
Right. And I want to say this too about everything you said, because what I'm hearing is that these individuals you given the chance to be rehabilitated, they can become not only productive citizens in this country, but also responsible taxpayers. Because that's really what, you know, thrive this economy. Because I mean, they wouldn't be passing out no stimulus checks, man, if they ain't cared nothing about the economy. You know, I mean,
That's the
let's just
truth.
keep it real.
That's the truth.
You know?
It's critical that we restore people back to the community. We reduce the recidivism rates. We cannot continue to tag people with criminal histories that prevent them from being able to get jobs, prevent them from being able to get homes. You know, the worst thing we can do to somebody is send him to jail for 5 years. Then when he gets out, now he can't get a job. He got to stay home with mom, and mama gonna get tired sooner or later. And now the only way he can get by is to go back to crime. That's the wrong answer. That's the model that we've been practicing under for the last 200 years. So now it's time to do a change. Restorative justice is the movement that we're in, and we need to focus on that. So that way we can say to ourselves, I did everything I can for him to have a good life. Now, if he wants to throw it away, I can't do nothing about it. But I'm going to give you every chance I can to restore yourself back to the community, put you in a position to get a job, put you in a position to get a good place to stay so you can continue to live a good life.
Exactly.
Well, how about for juveniles? Any kind of programs for the young juveniles?
Yes, one of the things we're going to start trying to do with our juveniles is try to reach them before they get to the court system.
And the reason why I asked you that was back in the day, I coached football 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I called Cobb County. I was trying to get some 11, 12-year-olds into the SCARE program.
Mm-hmm.
The lady told me they weren't qualified until they commit a crime.
And that's the wrong answer, because most of the time, by the time they get to the criminal justice
That was the
system,
answer.
we're too late.
Yep.
And so we have to reach them, and I actually talked to the schools about this. There's a period when the elementary kids go to middle school for their little orientation where they're all together. The middle school kids go to the high school where they're all together. I've told them what we want to do is come in with the local police officers, the local fire department, and talk to the kids, because we have to raise their expectations of who they can be. You know, I want their expectations of themselves to be so sky high that even if they fail, instead of being president, they're a member of the House of Representatives. You know, that's the way we have to look at it. You know, I spent 26 years in the Army, and I was the guy who, you know, if you could run a 12-minute mile with no problem, or 12-minute 2 mile with no problem. I would say, in order to get an excellent, you got to run a 10. And I did that because I wanted them to be their very best. And we have to do the same thing with our kids. So, we're going to have a reading program for the elementary kids. We're going to do a court program for the kids in high school, where what we're trying to do is we're going to teach some kids how to be district attorneys. We're going to teach some kids how to be defense attorneys. And if a kid gets in trouble in the school, we're going to have the court right there. Not take the kid out of school, but have the court right there, do whatever punishment we're going to do right there. So that way it doesn't go on the kid's record. The kid stays in school, and the kid hopefully graduates.
That was my next question, because it seems like once they teenagers are high school, they quit to get in the system. First thing they do wrong, boom, they name in the system.
Yes.
Well, I can tell you, before these people had joined, I used to go into the ombudsman school, and also I used to go to all the juvenile detention centers and things. So I think we're going to try to get back in there to make your job easier, and things like that. Because I've been to the Metro Center in Atlanta, spoke to the Gold Card of the juvenile. So I think it's time to kind of, get back into these schools.
Yes.
Of course, the pandemic done slowed us down because we're in partnership with Atlanta, a lot of homeless places. A lot of people just got out of prison. We was going there doing like motivational speaking, So once this pandemic get lifted, we're going to go back in there and do that. I mean, we had a lot of stuff going on. We in the partnership with the Atlanta Braves. We get the Brave tickets. We take the less fortunate, out here in Cobb to the baseball games. Remember? Yeah. So we had a lot. We do a lot of that. We just more just out here hooping and hollering, which you need that. But, we do a lot of stuff behind the scenes with the kids, and I kind of missed that. So hopefully, once this thing, I don't know how long this go last, man, but I kind of miss, how we going inside the, 11 Lucian Center, people just getting out of prison, and say stay positive, motivated, try to get people jobs. So I understand, what you're saying on this. So we all got to kind of make your job easier as well.
I'm going to send you a list of companies that will hire felons.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a list. There's probably about 300 companies on this list, and they will hire felons.
Okay.
So there are people willing to give people a chance.
Okay.
They just got to know where to go, know where to apply, and
Okay.
do those things.
All right. I think you got because I emailed you, so I know you
Yes,
got my email
I got your
address.
email.
Okay.
And the other thing, hopefully, this summer we're going to make a call for mentors, because we're going to try to start a big mentor program here in Cobb County, focused on South Cobb, focused on tutoring, focused on giving good examples to these young men and women, so that way they have someone to look at and say, I want to be like that person there. That's what I want to be. And I think that's important.
I know when I first moved here, talking to, I don't know if you remember, you probably didn't remember Chief Hatfield and all them. I go way back, but they always told me that as far as high crime rate was always in the Austell area on Six Flags and Franklin Road. Of course, they cleaned up Franklin Road.
Yeah, they cleaned up Franklin Road.
Because yeah.
Well, they wanted to put
I know South Cobb
they
still
wanted
got.
to put an IKEA over there.
I moved from Miami straight to Franklin
But I
Road.
know South Cobb. I mean not South, but I know Six Flags still got issues.
Yep, 99.
There, so but I don't know what other particular area, but I know for a fact, Franklin Road has changed. They cleaned up all that.
That's because Arthur Blank bought that. He been about the whole street, ain't he?
Well, yeah,
Mostly did all that.
He put the soccer team over
Over there, yeah.
They were supposed to put an
IKEA.
IKEA over there.
Right.
So there was a lot of things that were supposed to go over there.
Right. But I know Six Flags Drive, man, got they got issues.
It's getting better because that's my route.
Yeah. We dealt with a
That's
case.
my
I don't even know if y'all remember this, where a young man got killed in front of his kids. It was, we kind of did we did like a plea on that or whatever. Yeah, it was sad. Got killed, got in front of on Six Flags Drive. Yeah. So did you remember that? I don't know.
No, I
if you
don't
lived in
remember.
it. Yeah.
But I was saying to a thought, but no,
My co-host.
no, serious. But what I was gonna say is that prevention is better than abstinence. So we must prevent kids from going in a certain direction. And everything that I'm hearing, that's what I'm hearing about. I'm like, yeah, I can feel that.
No,
You know what I'm saying?
I think that's so important. That's why I was saying I want to reach the kids before they get to the criminal justice system. And it may cost us some money up front to do this, but like I told the commissioners, on the back end, we're going to save a whole lot. Because one, we're not gonna be having some
And
people in the
lives.
jail. We're gonna make the community safer, which is gonna drive up the values and everything. We have the potential and the resources here in Cobb County to make this happen. And it's just a matter of us saying, let's do this. And we're working and talking to all the community partners, all the community leaders to make this happen. And please forgive me for taking so long to return because you've been reaching out to me.
Right.
And-
Very persistent.
Yeah.
Get used to it. I'm just joking. Yeah, you got to be
Yeah,
but
you in that inbox, moving Facebook.
he's so silly.
But
Yeah.
that's what it takes.
But that'll show you I'm very serious.
Yeah, we have to
Yeah.
be persistent.
Matter of fact, I reached out to Miss Maddox in DeKalb, but I know she had caught the corona. Yeah, and I got Felicia Moore,
Uh-huh.
City Council President. She's going to come in here. So we're addressing not just Cobb. It's just I had to get you in here because you made history, and what I'm hearing today, you really want to make a change.
I want to make a change.
Things like
I
that.
want us to go forward and say at the end of the day that, we lived our best life and everybody had a chance to be successful here in Cobb County. If you want to be successful, we have to give you the tools to make that happen.
Right.
And I think we can do that.
I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm afraid though, because I'm afraid that he gonna stop. Because the myth is the county get paid money for who get locked up. So if he come along and put laws out there with less people getting locked up, now what?
Well, I tell you this, the day after I got elected,
Uh-huh.
I got a phone call from somebody and said they already plotting for 2024 to get rid of you.
For real?
For real.
You're not going nowhere.
Because it's gonna make sense, and he probably helped me out. The county get paid for each inmate, right?
Yeah, it costs $51.50 in the cab. It cost that in 2014 $52 a day to house an inmate.
So if this man put laws out there where it's gonna be less, so if he put
He's a
laws out
threat,
there,
right.
if he put laws out there right now, for be less folks get locked up. Now you messing with their money.
Well, he's just gonna lock up the real criminals.
Okay, I'm just.
He's not gonna
But what
lock
I'm saying is that what
I
I'm
get what
saying
he's
is
saying.
he
That's-
focused on the real criminals, but right now they focus on anybody. So if he take that solution out, now they only can lock up the ones that really do something. Now he messing with their pockets.
But see the difference, all that falls up under, the corrupt practices that these places been going by for so many years. And when you sit down and you have the district attorney and you're looking at people being awarded contracts and stuff at the jails, everybody knows is big business. Bonding companies, everything, everybody knows, are big business. A lot of the issues that you have, in the jails are led, by the contracts and things of that nature. And, when you got the sheriffs, it changing. Warren's no longer in power. We got a new sheriff that's coming in there whose focus is pretty much in line with his. So what they're doing, they're growing their base with the people. See, because not only are these people being able to go out here and get jobs, but they also convicted felons, their voter rights and stuff are restored. So, I mean, what you're seeing, you're coming into a different era. This man, he's been through some things. He ain't talking about everything that he's been through in life, but, the difference between some and all, all of us have been in situations and all of us have done things. Just some of us got caught. And the ones that didn't get caught, when they're able to look back and say, hey, I got to reach back down and pull these people up. And that's what you're going through. Like you said, when you look at, not only they have Black district attorneys, but they also got Black sheriffs, and those are the two entities, the district attorney and the sheriff,
That's the biggest.
that drove, what went on, in the county. So when you sit here looking at getting into schools and they're on the same sheet of music as far as getting into schools and working with these kids early, they're on the same sheet of music when they talk about, bail reform, things of that nature. They're all of them been through things. And you getting out of that Jim Crow, South, you had a lot of people that was put in positions, that was African Americans, but they was put in positions, by their white predecessors in order to keep things going that way. But yeah, you got some bold. This was a bold election here.
Very bold.
I-
Right.
Now I applaud both of y'all. You know what I'm saying, for stepping up for us. It's gonna come with something though.
It's going to
It's
come.
gonna come with something.
But the people that they got, the people that they have there. I mean, Darren Brown. He ran for sheriff in DeKalb in 2000.
Yeah.
He was talking about the same. He was talking about the same thing. Go up
Assassinated.
against a corrupt system, and the same thing that you're saying. You know, it's the same thing that you're saying. And they looked at Darren Brown. He said, "Hey,
He
you know,
trying to
get in
yeah.
here. He's gonna change things." So they assassinated him.
Sure
They
did,
killed
yeah.
him. But you know, his vision and everything is coming to pass. Not in DeKalb, not just in it hasn't fully come to pass in DeKalb, but it's coming to pass all in Metro, you know, Atlanta to change it. He's been talking about bond reform. He's been talking about programs, work programs, you know, in these jails, you know, for low level offenders to teach them trades so they can go out there doing partnerships with the unions. We got a lot of unions here, but now you got people in place, you know, that actually, you know, fulfilling it. It ain't as easy to go out and kill a man,
Right.
you know, just because they're trying to change things as it was in 2000.
Matter of fact, I reached out to Brandy today.
Yeah.
Yeah, the daughter of Derwin Brown. That was a mess back then. Boy, man, that was a mess. But I'm just excited, man. The way Metro Atlanta is changing. But like you said, we still got to hold these people accountable. You know, because you ask for our vote, we want to make sure. You know, I know politics can be dirty, things like that. Because people ask me when I was going to run. It's just I'm kind of free, but you know, we put the people in them seats that can represent and wake our people up. You know, and my dad is 82 years old. He just started crying. I said, "What you crying for?" He said he had never thought it'd be like this. You know, my time is coming to an near, but what I'm seeing, you know, it's some hope for our people, especially in the politics game.
Yes.
You know, things like that. So we just gotta, you know, make everybody's job easier. You know, and this social media is really killing our young kids too, though.
Yeah.
You know, when we're not around, what they're watching and stuff like that. You know?
I'm gonna drive 100 on purpose and give him your name. I'm good now.
Hey,
I'm going 100, 420 in the morning, give him his name.
You so silly.
He's not gonna make no.
He's not
gonna make no police officer. So he's not gonna hold on.
I'm messing with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
hey, I was gonna say this here though. Is
Be
that
careful using his name.
corruption is big business.
It is.
You know what I'm
Corruption
saying?
is big business.
So we gotta. This is the reason why when I was saying about prevention, you know, and abstinence, we gotta find ways to teach the young peoples not to become corrupt, whether it's being corrupt by the buck or corrupt by drugs and alcohol. We gotta find ways to prevent them from getting corrupted in the very beginning. And everything that you saying show me that you head in that direction. And I appreciate you for that, man.
You know, I was lucky enough that growing up, I had a mom who, I'll give you an example of how my mom was. In high school, I made real good grades. And so I played baseball, and one day we got our report card. I had 5 A's and a B. You know, all my boys were like, "Oh man, your mom gonna be proud." I'm like, "No, she ain't."
You got that B?
Because I had that B. I said, as soon as she see that B, the first question out of her mouth, why you get a B in biology? And they said, "No, you kidding." I said, "I'm serious." And when we walked home, we always got to my house first. So I brought them in the house, showed my mom report card. "Why you get B?" And they all just cracked up laughing. My mom, "Why they all laughing?" Because I told them you were going to say what you were going to say. And that's how my mom was. And she was a single parent. And, you know, literally most of the time, I didn't see my mom. I saw her at breakfast, and I saw her after I got home from practice. And that was usually 6 or 7 o'clock. And so most of that time, she was working. And what we have nowadays is the same situation where kids don't have that mom forcing that standard on them to raise them up to a level of expectation
That's true.
that they can meet.
Right.
And you know, I'm not trying to ditch on single moms. I'm just saying that we have to understand how important your role is with your child.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if you see your child an hour a day, that hour should be spent on, okay, what happened in school today?
Right.
Did you do your homework? Let me check it. Let me
Right.
make sure it's right.
Right.
You know, I need you to bring home this kind of grade. You know, and kids need to understand when you get in high school, you really start documenting your future right then and there, because now the grades start counting. Because if you don't make good grades in high school, you ain't gonna get the scholarship to go to college.
Right.
You're gonna have to work through college, and that means lower grades, more time in school. You know, I'm a product of that. When I went to college, I had always wanted to be in the Army. I went for 1 year, and I said, this ain't where I want to be. And then I joined the Army, spent 26 years in. But that entire time, I kept working on my degree because I knew one day I was going to have to get out. And I tell people all the time, just make steady progress. If you can't do it all right now, just make steady progress to whatever your goal may be. And it's critical that we make them understand that. Raise those expectations.
You know, me personally, it seems like the discipline has been taken out of our home.
It has.
I remember getting whoopings. There wasn't no child abuse going on, but I was afraid of my parents. Not afraid every day, but I knew if I, you know, it wasn't all about, you know, coming home every day, you getting kicked out of school and all that stuff. Discipline has changed.
It has changed.
You know, and stuff like that. So this is a whole different era. You know, I'm kind of still old school, but people look at me, that stuff does not work these days. You know, I hate when you have parents, you know, a mom and a daughter, they talking like they sisters. I couldn't call my mom by her first name. I wouldn't be here right now. You know, and it's just, you know, because a lot of our kids, you know, you have to respect your elders. But I do understand, you know, the way they being raised and they trying to survive. You know, and things like that. You know, it's just the fact that, you know, we can't give up. Because we all, you know, have to set an example for the future.
Right. And for our young men who out there, if you got kids, you ain't got to be with mama to be in your kid's life.
Right.
That's critical. You know, you got to make sure that you're spending time, that you're showing your kid what growing up should look like.
Right.
And I think that's critical because my daughter, who's 26 years old now, me and her mom, we were only together the first 4 years of her life. But I made it a point that she would never be able to tell somebody that her father did not love her. And I think that was critical. And I tell people all the time that I tried to be the man that I wanted her to marry one day. I try to model that man.
I got you.
So that, you know, because most girls are daddy's girls. And
especially when they want something.
yeah.
When you hear from your birthday time, Christmas time, I hope she hear this.
the man that they look to marry is someone like their father.
Right. Yeah, you know, it's just a whole different era.
It
you
is.
know, but you know, we got, like Jesse said, keep hope alive.
Well, I got 4 daughters. They try to manipulate me all the time. It ain't going.
Right.
It ain't going. I gotta show them. You know, I gotta be stern with them. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't spoil you to a good life and a good living. I can't spoil you today. I gotta make you deal with reality on reality terms. You know what I'm saying? You gotta get up and go to work like I do. And if you don't, then you gotta go find you a husband like my wife did.
Right.
Well, hopefully we raise them to the point where they don't need a man.
Right.
They want a man, but they don't need one. That they can take care of themselves and
I agree.
do their thing.
I'm gonna tell you what I used to do. Like I said, I used to travel a lot. It's just this pandemic. I used to go into the urban areas of Chicago, New Orleans, and people thought I was crazy, but I kind of go in there and talk to them brothers, you know, and it got to the point like, damn, if everybody had that same attitude, you know, they just want to be heard. You know, I remember when I went to New Orleans, Fifth Ward, the guy said, you know what, I don't even speak to people in my city. You a stranger, I don't know who you are. I might can't go on social media with you, man, but every time you come to New Orleans, I got your back. That kind of meant something like that, you know what I mean? So,
But I told you before, they don't respect Unc no more. Like, they don't respect Unc. The young cats don't respect the OGs no more.
I never had a problem when I go into these communities.
Like, the ones they call me Unc, whatever. They don't. You gotta be careful when you walk with these young boys. They don't.
I understand.
It ain't the same no more.
Right.
It ain't.
That's true.
It's a power shift.
It ain't.
Now it's all about is you really, you know, coming with the right message. You know what I'm saying? Or if they got a challenge, if you trying to challenge them for they, you know, they reality.
Right.
You know, if you gonna challenge me for my block, then I'm gonna fight you. But if you come in with a message trying to tell me how to lift myself off this block,
They will. Right.
then
Depend how you approach them.
you know,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
because they most definitely afraid. They're afraid of losing their influence. And if you got more, if you come with a little like what Justice Peace called it swagger, if you come with a little more swagger, then you know you may be challenging them, and they may push back.
Right.
and it may get you killed.
That's true. That's true. That's true. So I know you're ready for the challenge.
I
you
am
know,
ready for
and
the challenge.
we will, we will work with you, and things like that. So again, once this pandemic get lifted, we gonna really be more out in the streets, and things like that. So it's very important to be visible. When people talk about you, that mean you're doing something. They ain't talking about you, you ain't doing nothing. So I like when they talk loans, the man upstairs know that our mission is for real. He teased me about the positions in the organization, but one thing I could say, I have some dedicated people in New Order, locally and nationally, and things like that. And even though the ones that works remotely, they're here in spirit,
Right.
and things like that. So I must be doing something right because it's volunteer.
Right.
When I need research, boom, go to the research department. Like right now, I have some research of all of the chief of police throughout Metro Atlanta. So when I want to sit down with them, or even the politicians, I already have my homework in front of me. Because I believe in proper research,
Right.
even when we're dealing with a legal case.
Yes.
Because people are fed up. People just want to be seen and all this, but I believe in results. And things like that. So I'm willing to work with you. We probably have some ups and downs, but nothing against you. Just dealing with Cobb so long, man. Feel like I'm dreaming right now. I'm sitting in the studio, the first African American DA. This is Cobb County. And now, do we have someone in Foresight as far as did you know Mr. Daniel Blackman? He ran.
Yes, Daniel
Yeah,
Blackman.
he's a strong brother.
Yes.
He didn't win, man, but he's out in Forsyth County, so it's changing out there as well. And
No,
things like
the
that.
whole state is changing,
Change.
Especially the metro areas. The metro areas are probably more progressive than ever before.
Wow.
So that's a good thing. People want to see a change.
So
People
Gwinnett
want-
County got the first black sheriff too. Cobb, Gwinnett's like Cobb a little bit, ain't it?
Gwinnett's actually ahead of Cobb as far as the change.
No, I know they got the biggest school system money wise, correct?
Yeah.
In Cobb. Okay.
Yeah, Cobb has been slow to change. Gwinnett County has been ahead of us.
Oh, for real?
Yes, very much so.
Kyle was like the last monkey hanging on the plank of Noah's Ark.
For real. But one thing I know about Cobb.
His head, they was fighting it, but yeah,
Right.
here's to show you that it's his head.
I got a question, both of y'all. What made y'all run for what y'all run for? Like, what made you do what you doing, and you be a cop for so many years?
Well, I'll start off. I'll go ahead and I start off with me. I was an at-risk youth. I had my first child at 15 years old. I dropped out of high school. I was the youngest of 7, and I was only one of my mother kids to. I was only one of my mother kids to, drop out of high school, and I ran with some tough crowds, but I almost lost my brother, and that changed my life. And I almost lost my brother. I was around 19 years old. And, I vowed, I swear to God, I said, if you spare his life, I'll change my life. He came home from the hospital. He was in the hospital for like almost 6 months, but he came home from the hospital and, he came home in October 13th. I was going off into the military. I joined the Army, the Army Reserves. And when I came out, I got a job with New Jersey Transit. I didn't like the way that I was treated by law enforcement growing up. As a kid, I didn't like a lot of things that they, how they projected themselves in my community. And it's hard to get in law enforcement up in New Jersey.
Oh, that's where you're from, Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's hard to get in law enforcement up in New Jersey. I was lucky to get a job here, in 1995 with the DeKalb Police Department and stuff. And, once I got that job with DeKalb, let me say, I went back to high school and I got my high school diploma. And when I was working with DeKalb, although I was my mother only child to drop out, I was the first one to give her a 4-year, college degree. And, during my time in law enforcement as a cop, I was just like, hey, lock them up, let the courts and stuff, let the courts deal with them and sort them out. Then when I went over there and I was working at the jail, it's just like he walked into a courtroom and he seen nothing but pools of African Americans. I walked from pod to pod to pod and seen nothing but, when I say pods, have you ever been to the jail and you've seen the DeKalb County jail is one of the biggest jails, in the state of Georgia. going from floor to floor to floor, it changed my whole outlook, and it changed me from, one of saying, hey, just lock them up, let the courts sort them out, to something else got to take place. We need to help them find jobs. We need to help them, before they get into these, before they get into here, and things of that nature. And as the sheriff and the cab, you have a multitude of ways that you can help, influence the youth and influence the community. A lot of people don't know the role of the sheriff and things of that nature. But it's just like the district attorney. They pick and choose what cases go forward. And the sheriff actually, running that jail, he has the executive power. When anybody's arrested for anything, any misdemeanor, they don't do it, but they can release them. They can release them on their own recognizance, but a lot of them don't, because bails, the bonding company is big business. But I got into it for a change, and I wanted to bring about a change.
So let me ask you something. So you saying the sheriff can override if a judge sentenced someone in jail, the sheriff can override and let him out?
No.
Okay.
No. Before an individual is sentenced, before an individual is pre-convicted, if an individual is arrested on a misdemeanor,
I got you.
then before they go to court.
Gotcha.
But once the judge imposes a sentence,
That's it, huh?
only unless they can do some of their time and the sheriff got overcrowded jail.
Okay.
Then
He could go. Okay.
Yeah, the key, like he was saying, is that there are certain charges in Georgia where you have the option whether you actually arrest somebody. You can give them a citation and say, report to court on such and such a day.
Okay.
You don't have to take them to jail. Once you take them to jail, if it's a misdemeanor, the sheriff can book them in, and before they have their first appearance hearing, if it's a misdemeanor, they can release them.
Okay.
Now, if it's a felony, they have to have that first appearance hearing, and then a bond is set by a magistrate court judge.
Right.
And that's where the power of the DA comes in, because the DA is the one who has an assistant district attorney at that first appearance hearing advocating for the state on what the bond should be.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where our focus is. That first step of the justice system is to make sure that, one, there's a defense attorney
Right.
to advocate on behalf of the person. And my goal for my assistant district attorneys is to say, if it's a nonviolent offense and we're going to have a list, no, we don't want a bond, let them out, give them a court date.
Let me ask you a question. I know I can't really speak on this case, but they fill out the paperwork, but we received a case that you might have seen on the news where it was a high profile case. A guy was run up for murder in Nebraska, and he came here, and the marshals, they killed him, but they haven't received a police report, and the family's concerned about that. How long does it take to get a police report? Because it's been a minute, they still saying there's no police report. What's the longest?
Yeah, so I know a lot of times when they got an open investigation, under the Open Records Act, as long as it's an open investigation,
It can last.
It can last. They can hold off on
That's
releasing
probably
any
what's going on.
documents.
Because she's wondering why they can't get no police report. It's been about 4 or 5 months.
Anything that's a part of an ongoing investigation.
Okay, that's normal.
And
And in a case like that, if it was an officer-involved shooting,
Yes.
they may be wanting to send it to the grand jury. And if it's here in Georgia, and this happened within...
They did that already, to my understanding. They sent it to the grand jury.
They sent it to the grand?
Yeah.
Okay, so once it goes to the grand jury, then everything is open.
Public record, right?
Yeah, so
but they still don't have a police report. That's what they're saying.
have they asked for it?
Yeah, she called down there. It's just the fact. See, one thing about us, they got to fill out the paperwork first before we can get involved.
Mhm.
So the conversation is very limited. But what she's saying, I do have some questions, and things. But she's saying that they calling down there, and and they're not.
If she goes down to the precinct,
She called somewhere on Dollar. This wasn't in Cobb though.
Okay.
This happened in Atlanta, and she called somewhere on Dollar Lee Hollowell, someplace down there for the police report. I don't know.
yeah,
I just wanted to ask you.
normally you have to actually go to the precinct and ask for the incident report.
Okay.
They'll look at the date that you're asking for and the names of the involved.
Over the phone, they pulled it up, but she said it's not. But there's no police report. Yeah, that's what she told me.
you probably want to look more into that, or we'll look into it, because they'll release the
Well,
police
and-
report. They'll just
Okay.
And the other thing, you
redact
got to make sure you're going to the right agency too, because you got to remember, here in Georgia, you have police departments, you have city police, you have county police departments, city police
Yeah, you got
departments.
so
have
many,
sheriffs.
right.
They're all different entities, and so they all have their own
Actually, it
stuff.
was the U.S. Marshals.
And that's a whole nother incident. So she would have to go to the U.S. Marshal's office to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, because if she's just going to the local police department,
Right, right,
it won't happen.
right.
Hey, also too, I wanted to say this because a lot of our peoples don't understand that we're not the only peoples under the law. Everybody is under the law. The law is for everybody. It governs all events and everybody and everything. So when we go into the courtroom, the judge is under the law. You as a state's attorney is under the law. The lawyer that represents you is under the law. The police that arrested you, he's under the law. You are not just the only one facing the law. You know what I'm saying? But they give off the impression that we're the only ones under the law.
No, what you're saying is critical, and that leads into the reason why I wanted to become the district attorney. Because as the district attorney, you have a duty not just to the victims in the state, but also to the offenders to seek justice, not convictions, but justice. And convictions and justice are not always the same thing. And that's why I like what your organization says. We look at facts and not emotion.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, when we see something happen without knowing all the facts, we get all tied up on an officer just killed another black man without knowing all the facts.
Right.
And it's critical that we have to know the facts. And so we hear all this uproar all the time. And what we really need to do is wait till we see the facts.
Right.
So we know what happened.
Believe me, every case that call us, we don't take. We do our little own investigation.
Well, you know, if it's a 12-year-old child in Ohio playing with a gun,
Tamir Rice,
and the police pull up and he shoot him,
Tamir Rice.
it's hard for us not to be emotional.
No, I totally understand.
It's
Right, I
impossible.
understand, yeah.
You know, anytime we lose a brother, whether it's justified or not,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get upset because I'm like, what did we do wrong? What could we have done different to make sure that didn't happen? And you know, I served 26 years in the military and I was infantry, so I know every weapon in the world. I would never buy my child a gun to play with because I don't want to send that message to him. And nowadays these guns look so doggone real that, you know, it's hard for somebody to distinguish between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the one thing that we have to understand too, and you know, this works both ways. We want the officer to try to de-escalate the situation. But at the
Right.
same time, we don't want to handicap him to the point where he don't go home at night. You know, and so that's critical. And so we as a community, we need to realize that and put our kids in places where we're, yes, making sure that we're putting them in places where we know that they're going to be safe. We know that they're heading in the right directions. You know, I don't want to keep teaching our kids to be gangsters. We can't keep doing that.
Yeah.
And it disturbs me when I see kids on Facebook and they're posing with guns and money all the time. You know.
And they don't know they being watched.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Well, we got about 7 minutes left into the show. We could do any kind of final words or anything like to say, Kyle. First of all, again, like I said, you ain't gone nowhere, but you officially stuck now. Spoke highly of you. I'm glad that Jeanette and Noki finally had a chance to meet you because I know you very in our public page.
Most
they say,
definitely a
"Who's
pleasure,
Kyle
bro.
Jones?"
It's most definitely a
def-
pleasure.
def-
Yeah.
Right,
Definitely.
right.
Like I said, the way I met Gerald. I met Gerald protesting the eviction of a elderly woman during
Right.
the Occupy Atlanta when they was having a lot of evictions in the sheriff's
Right.
office. They did it. They would, unfortunately, you know, they do evictions when they issue writs from Superior Court judge, and Gerald and the community wasn't pleased with an eviction. A lot of us, even the sheriff, wasn't pleased with the eviction. And yeah, that's how I met Gerald when he was coming in for the press conference
Right.
and stuff. And you know, we kept
Vernon
communicating.
Jones was in office member.
Yeah,
Yeah. I remember when I went to meet with the sheriff. I think you the one came down
Came
there and
down and got
escorted
you.
me up. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was
Right.
back in, I want to say 2008 or 2009. You know, we just stayed in the communication
Right.
and contact. Both had the same mission, was just working in two different
Right.
two different places. And yeah, it's amazing sitting here listening to you,
It's true,
to
yeah.
you speak, because you speak a lot of my passion and stuff, and to hear that a lot of stuff is going to be implemented, because you're the one that's talking about implementing it, and you have the resources, and the ability to do it. A lot of people saying that, he's going to get tired, or that he's not going to be able to be accessible. But I can sit here and listen, you are going to be accessible, because you're not just putting out sound bites.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the difference when you got people that put out sound bites. Like I said, you can sit here and listen, and I can tell when people been through things,
Right.
in their life, and they want to bring about real change. They're just not
Right.
saying it.
Question now, what did you do before you ran for office? I know you said you was
I was
in the
an
military.
assistant solicitor general.
That's right.
And
Okay.
I was
In
actually
Cobb here?
in Cobb County. I was
Okay.
actually the DUI court prosecutor, and then before that, I was actually the Veterans Court coordinator. So I had a lot of experience in our accountability courts. And Kyle, speaking on what you said as far as getting tired, yesterday when I got home, I was dead tired, and I said to my wife, I said, you know what, today was a good day, because those veterans said to me, Mr. Roy, thank you for keeping this on your mind, and that's all I want, is to, when someone says we did something good for them, we changed their life, we made a difference in them, that'll keep me going for another 6 or 7 months.
Right.
And that's all I need, is that confirmation from one person every now and then,
Right.
to let me know that we making a difference. And forgive me for this. I got to give this plug. My wife is the most amazing woman I know, and she has been my rock ever since we've been together. And if I get discouraged, she lifts me up. She actually got five. When we fed the homeless, she came down with me, and
I seen that, yeah.
the reason I wanted to go to that area, because I told Prophet that's where I wanted to go, because we used to go down to Pine Street, and the first time I
right.
went with her, you don't know how many homeless people are there till you bring some food, and
Right.
they were coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I didn't know the problem is this bad. But every day we see that. And lots of times those people are just like us. They were one paycheck away from the gutter. And,
That's what I'm saying.
And
Yeah.
something happened that caused that. Whether it had been drug abuse or whatever it was. And
Lost their job.
and lost their job. And most of the time it's because of the criminal justice system. And so we got to fix it, to do better for them, because, I hate looking at homeless people. Not because I have a disdain for them, but because I see myself in them. And I see how, if this would have happened, if that would have happened, I could have been that person.
True. Right.
And we all have to have that empathy towards them, so that we can say, okay, let's do better, let's do better. And just like you were talking about panhandling, when a panhandler used to come through my courtroom, I would dismiss the case every single time. I would not charge them anything. And most of the time, they actually went to jail, spent a couple of days in jail before they got an OR bond, and then had to come back to court. And I would never charge them, because to me, it's if you have to lower yourself to panhandle, you have pretty much said, I have to throw away my dignity because I have to beg somebody for something.
Right.
And we shouldn't be throwing them people even further down in the gutter.
Right.
We should be trying to help them out.
Right. All right. Final words.
Yeah, man. Thank you, man. It's nice hearing from you and everything. But a lot of things that we talked about, I'm writing a book called The Never Ending Game.
Okay.
And the reason, adaptive fine experience from within inside America ghetto slums. I come from there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not strictly about me. And I tell my kids this all the time. When I do things for people, I don't do it for me. I do it to please my Lord.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That's where I seek my reward.
Exactly.
And hearing you speak and everything, I see you coming from that place.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Again, this has been Real
Yeah.
Talk with New Order each week from 5 to 6:30 p.m. live on DiSCO100 Radio. I want to thank our guest, Mr. Flynn Brody, African American, look like me, Cobb County DA, Kyle Jones. I know DiSCO100, my security advisor. Then, of course, my dedicated co-host each week, coming into the studio, Mr. Noki Hardin, originally from Chicago. You just hear his passion. You know, he's a poet too. And of course, Jeanette, you keep doing what you're doing, answering the calls and stuff. And to my New Order family across this country, not I, but we, New Order for life. And we're going to go ahead in this segment. And next time this week, we'll be at the same time next week. Thank you. God bless you. Peace.
Peace.